must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
I'm joining the World Health Organization's Safe Hands Challenge. Hand washing is one of the most effective ways of preventing the spread of coronavirus. Wash your hands with soap and water for at least 40 to 60 seconds.
Affected the whole world, and some nations more severely than others. We, as Kenya, have so far been spared of the more terrible human cost because the government has followed the advice of our medical experts and acted quickly to stop this disease spreading and killing large numbers of Kenyans. Indeed, at the beginning of the pandemic, our medical experts had estimated that if we had not taken action, they had projected 10,000 people would have been infected by the end of April. However, due to determined mitigating measures, both by the national government and our county governments, we are now only at 343 confirmed cases, and I want to take this opportunity to thank the millions of Kenyans for showing discipline and responsibility, because it is this attitude by law-abiding Kenyans that is saving thousands of families from grieving for those who would otherwise be lost to the coronavirus. Indeed, on behalf of a grateful nation, I also take this opportunity to extend our appreciation and thanks to the many thousands of health and security officials standing on the front lines against this most formidable foe. Indeed, while we continue to mourn the 14 who have succumbed to the disease, we also celebrate the 98 recoveries that we have seen so far. I am encouraged by the progress we have made, but I wish to remind Kenyans that we are yet to be victorious. And that is the reason why today I wish to announce the following additional measures. In accordance to the advice given to me by the National Emergency Response Committee on the coronavirus pandemic, the National Security Council has sanctioned the following additional measures to protect lives and to protect our country. That the cessation of movement into and out of the Nairobi metropolitan area and the counties of Kilifi, Kwale, and Mombasa that are currently in force shall be extended for a further containment period of 21 days. That the nationwide dusk to dawn curfew that is currently in force shall also be extended for a further period of 21 days. And to ensure that porous borders and security threats do not compromise our response to this pandemic, the security services will upgrade their alert and response measures in every border area. Additionally, the counties of Mandera, Kilifi, Kwale, and Mombasa have registered through their governors an increase in cases of infection and have reported this. And today we say that if this worrying trend does not reverse, more stringent measures will be taken in consultation with the respective county governments. I will continue to use the best scientific and medical advice to calibrate our response as a nation, and we shall escalate, or for that matter, de-escalate, on the basis of how vulnerable we are to large-scale infection. Key to making these determinations is our progress with targeted mass testing, and we are working hard to overcome the greatly constrained global supplies of testing equipment in order for us to expand our capabilities nationwide. Fellow Kenyans, I am indeed profoundly conscious of the economic and livelihood distress many Kenyans are feeling at this particular moment. And this is why we are going to continue to roll out initiatives that offer relief, particularly to our youth and our families in distress. The next initiative, of which will commence on Wednesday, the 29th of April, is an initiative that we're calling the National Hygiene Program. And I believe that this is an initiative that will create jobs while making our environments healthier. The first phase of the National Hygiene Program for the next 30 days will employ some 26,148 workers and eventually grow to over 100,000 young people across the country. This added to the already existing 108,000 vulnerable households that are presently receiving direct cash grants, and the 8 billion Kenya shillings that our senior citizen program and vulnerable families are getting, which I believe will continue to offer tangible relief to the most needy in our society. The inaugural cluster of employment in the program that I have just announced, the National Hygiene Program, will involve residents in 23 informal settlements across 7 of the most affected counties. To demonstrate the principles of this approach, the making of face masks will be undertaken by 4,048 tailors residing in these settlements, and for their neighborhoods, they will make up to 250,000 masks per day. This intervention, I believe, stimulates the local economy while advancing the war against coronavirus. We have also decided to move in phases to ensure that those being employed work under proper health standards and protocols that will help us limit the rate of infection. Indeed, as we get better and more practiced at implementing work protocols, we will increase the amount and number of people employed. As this phase is rolled out from this Wednesday, phase 2 will be getting prepared. Its scale will be much greater and its area of focus will be nationwide. Additionally, there are already aspects of the post-coronavirus economic recovery plan that we are progressively rolling out. And my administration shall in particular activate micro, small, and medium enterprises across our country to manufacture basic medical equipment and supplies for domestic use and for export. This initiative, because we do believe we shall defeat the coronavirus, shall be nested under the universal healthcare coverage agenda and will utilize approximately 1.5 billion Kenya shillings, and the Juakali sector shall take the center stage in production while leveraging on our technical and vocational educational training centers, as well as the constituency industrial development centers. And to this end, I do direct our Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Industry and Trade to expedite the rollout of this initiative across the country, and I do encourage our governors, to whom health is one of their key roles, to please help us and support us in supporting these young men and women working in our SMEs. Our victory will come from a whole of society approach to fight this virus, and this includes our individual and collective acts of solidarity with others, as individuals, as I said, as institutions, but also as a country. Indeed, I want to reaffirm today that I have spoken to most of our development partners across the world, and I have found a very positive response. In the next couple of weeks, I believe that we shall have billions of shillings that will be added through our own initiatives as well as our development partners, and these will be added to some of these initiatives that I have announced today to offer direct relief to Kenyans. And I want to thank each and every partner for their solidarity and willingness to listen and to respond to our proposals. In the same breath, I would also like to express my heartfelt thanks to our National Assembly for rising to the challenge and seeing the merit to approve the tax measures that my administration had prepared. And I want to thank our legislators, and we will now ensure that employees have more of their earnings available for them to spend, and that also that we reduce the corporate tax burden as an incentive to business enterprises, and I expect these measures to complement all the other measures that the government has and is taking to minimize the negative impact of the coronavirus on the economy and on the welfare of ordinary mwananchi. I also want at this point to specially recognize and thank the very, very many active community groups that are responding to the needs of their fellow citizens. I want to express my thanks to members of Shining Hope communities, the Sikh and Hindu communities, the Green Card, Mtaani, Ghetto Classics, Torch Women, Women in Business, many individual, corporate, and individual partners, including Beyond Zero. And I want to thank you all for the efforts that you are making to partner with us as government as we alleviate the stress that many vulnerable groups are going through. Let me say, fellow Kenyans, that we are not going to be in this situation forever. There will come indeed a day, and I hope and believe and trust in God that this will not be in the distant future, when we will overcome the threat of this pandemic. I also believe that by being disciplined, patriotic, and empathetic, we can achieve a victory. As I have stated, we will continue to be guided by the medical expertise, science on how to escalate, and again I repeat once more, or de-escalate our response to this pandemic. I believe that we are now in the middle of a war being fought in every street, in every homestead, every building across our country. The key for all of us to return to normal is keeping our infection rates falling and raising our testing rates. So far as a country, we have tested some 17,492 persons and are proceeding with mass targeted testing. This is giving our experts the data and insights to guide the policy decisions that we make now and that we shall make into the future. I want to be categorical and once again re-emphasize that government, will not delay in de-escalating the measures that I am announcing today the moment our experts, because it is they in whom we should trust, inform us that the risks have reduced significantly on the basis of how we as governments, national and county, but also as individual citizens, shall respond to the directions that we are given by our experts. Indeed, I have directed, for example, the National Response Emergency Committee to map out the economic sectors and activities on the basis of infection risk. The mapping exercise, when combined with increased testing and more exact contact tracing, will inform how we reopen our economy progressively. One immediate step from the work done so far is that we shall allow a few restaurants and eateries in selected counties that show the highest levels of health regulation compliance and the ability to arrange for employee testing to undertake minimal operations while maintaining measures that mitigate against the spread of coronavirus. The Cabinet Secretary of Health will in due course be announcing and release the protocols that we shall expect these facilities to abide by. Any report by the public or authorities that these establishments that we shall be reopening are not following the laid down measures and protocols will lead to their instant closure and indeed follow-up prosecutions. We will reopen our economy, but this must be in a way that does not endanger many thousands of lives. Some countries, as you all well know, had initially succeeded in suppressing the pandemic only for them to open up without proper process and consequently suffer a huge spike in infections. We don't want to go that way. So, as we move on, our long rains are here, and while we are grateful for the blessings, the heavy rains in many parts of our countries have also, unfortunately, led to flooding, landslides, and in some cases, loss of life and destruction of property. We mourn the 29 Kenyans who have lost their lives in Elgeyo Marakwet and West Pokot, and my administration continues to make every effort to support affected families and communities across the country. We continue to warn our fellow Kenyans that coming out of last year, where the rains were still very heavy and now are heavy once again, the risk of flooding, the risk of mudslides are
Good morning, Africa, wherever you are in Africa. Thank you very much for watching Punchline Africa television broadcasting all the way from Nairobi, the Republic of Kenya, and miles away from the studio today, wherever we are in Africa. Thank you very much. That is Miriam Ogutu in the studio of Punchline, the headquarters of Punchline Africa Television in Nairobi. Thank you very much, Miriam. Good morning.
A very good morning to you, Doctor. Nice to see you again.
Yes, thank you very much. We woke up early. We have to do it. We have to say something. We must continue to support President Uhuru Kenyatta's policies and the policies of the people of Kenya, of the government, such that we can have a tangible results delivered at the end of this COVID-19. They remember there is COVID-19 will be over one day. Somehow it will be over. Not everything lasts longer than God would prefer it to do. It is an arrangement that will see the people of East Africa return and the people of Kenya return to normal activities. Thank you very much. We won't say much about the legacy, but we shall highlight areas of where the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta still continues to work as much as there is a COVID-19. This legacy must be maintained and we must achieve. Remember, we have 2.5 years remaining, or 2 years now, that are remaining. And in this legacy, we want to find what can be done, what best can come out within the 2 years. President Uhuru Kenyatta announced new measures to help tackle COVID-19 outbreak while considering various issues. One, he directed the Health and Public Service Ministries to develop a welfare package to cushion frontline health workers. That is kudos. Very good for the workers who needed it anyway. I think Miriam is very good at reading. You just go ahead and read whatever the policies that the president has so far continue to work on within the framework of the legacy.
All right, and so President Uhuru Kenyatta has also sorry about that. So President Uhuru Kenyatta has also directed the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority to waive for 3 months the requirement for counties to purchase locally manufactured personal protective equipment. And I think this will go a long way in supporting our local manufacturers and our local industries. And we see Kitui County has been on the front line in helping President Uhuru Kenyatta achieve this dream of right now empowering our own people. As you see, during this COVID-19, every country has been to themselves. Countries have been taking care of their own, of their own cases there, and especially the countries that we have, depended on in the past. So right now, this has gone a long way in empowering our local manufacturers there and our local industries who have been, making this very important personal protective equipment, especially for our frontline workers, that is the medical staff in this country. And also President Kenyatta has considered needy households in Nairobi that have started benefiting from the government stipend and relief food to cushion vulnerable Kenyans. That has really gone a long way, Doctor, in ensuring the people who otherwise could now be going to sleep with empty stomachs, at least they get to have a meal until this matter has been sorted out there.
Thank you very much, Miriam. This morning, on top of what we are saying here, I wrote a piece. Miriam, again, is a very good reader. But we shall try to read parts under 1, then you read 2, and then I read 3, and we finish. There's nothing much really for us. We emphasize the need, the government policy, the sacking of the director of Kenya, Kemri. If you didn't the results now, you kill the people. There are people in quarantine who never wanted to be in quarantine. Because you traveled, you come back, you don't have the money. You might have only $1,000 left. And you are told to stay in a hotel for 10 days, 14 days, 28 days. And if a civil servant delays the money, the results, which are already complete, and does not come up with, it doesn't have excuse. It doesn't have to say, I don't have a car to deliver these results. You have bodyguards, you have PA. attached to your office. What the minister did was very good. If we have several of these ministers, like Mutahi Kagwe, the government of President Uhuru Kenyatta will deliver its legacy, and the Kenyans will remember the toughness of the policies that the president has churned out. Remember, most of the policies have been, diluted, eroded, water poured, cold water poured on by Murukomen and other surrogates that always sing of regime change and opposing the president. But here we are. This man said, you go. I only saw one small man called Nelson Harvey. It's very small in mind, but big in claiming to have read the law. But if you read the law and you interpret it wrongly every day, the other day, Nelson Harvey was in court trying to remove curfew. Surely, in the times of emergency, which judge will give you an order? You should also use the brains when you're a lawyer and you are representing people. At times, use the brains. You can't say every case that you have, you will be going there to win. Some of these cases are not winnable. You can't win anything right now if you have broken a law of drinking in the cup. No judge in the court, whether Britain, America, will give you a ruling in favor to please you. Nowhere. All the things change. And this is why we should be talking like Africans. There's no need of being so pressed that we are doing journalism. We must talk freely like you and I are doing. Our engagement is an engagement to make people. Mass communication is the way to mass communicate, to people to learn you, not for people to avoid you. If you bring too many English words, if you can see, that's what I've told my friend, Professor Pierre Lumumba. Some of these words here can make people run away from you because they will fear you. Every time they see you with it, they know they have to carry a dictionary. So mass communication language is the one that is very effective. If a director general of Kemre can delay the results, what about the lower clerical officer who is testing people in Kirinyaga? He will come when the plane has left Isiolo, Mandera, Masabit, Isiolo, Mandera, Masabit, Samburu. Those are areas where a government medical ambulance is doing the job to pick those samples and bring them to Nairobi and take them back. So that delay is not accepted. Mm-hmm. That is a kudos for Mr. CS Mutahi Kagwe, Miriam.
Yes, because right now time is of the essence, so every minute counts. The people who are sitting there anxious that they're waiting for the results to know whether they should get out of the quarantine or what is happening. Should they be put, into medication? Because you cannot start medication until your results come in. So I think right now time is of the essence, especially for the Minister of Health and Kemri particularly, because they're responsible for a majority of the tests that are being carried out in this country. And so, Mr. Mutahi, that is the CS for Health, felt this person was not delivering as per the agreement. As we saw part yesterday, we were looking at that letter that the CS directed to this person, this director at Kemri, saying that we had agreed that this result should be out by 8 a.m., but it appears you have not lived to your part, and maybe that person did not bother to give the explanations. We don't know the circumstances involving that, but yeah, if you felt this person, the director, was hindering the speed at which he wanted to move, and then he did he thought he would bring somebody else there who would speed up the process, because right now our time is of the essence. But he's not been fired, he's just been demoted. So he's not out of his job, he's just been demoted there. And we've seen that move really raise a lot of criticism, especially from other scientists there, from Cambria, indeed across the country. Right now, let's just put everything else aside. If the results are supposed to come in at a particular time, let the results come in at a particular time. And if you're not able to deliver that, can you prior, I think, as a matter of just good practice, you say, we had agreed, but because of this and this, perhaps it will delay with another hour, or it will delay or because of these reasons. Because I don't think CS Mutahi is just crazy. He'll just wake up and say you're fired because of you did not deliver at 8. If somebody perhaps would have bothered to give the explanation of the circumstances under which maybe the delay was caused, I'm sure he would have understood. Maybe that lacked, but anyway, we don't understand fully what really happened there. But yes, that was done, and now I'm sure they'll have learned their lesson. Mm-hmm.
Miriam,
yes,
it is very clear. I have learned something from what happened.
yes,
It's very clear. This man, there were people who are supposed to be sent out of the quarantine. Mm-hmm. And the courts have been very focused,
yes,
and the people, individuals, are focused on those people.
People are nervous, yes, yes.
And then, if they release them early enough, some of them come from as far as up country. They want to go.
Yes.
They will have certificates. They are able to go away. Some of them were caught at the airport. Mm-hmm. All what they have are the clothes they had in the suitcase. Mm-hmm. At the airport. Mm-hmm. Imagine you are from Bungoma, or imagine you are from Turkana, and that when you came back, you say you are in quarantine. You have finished 14 days. Your family in Turkana does not know where you were. Mm-hmm. So you are supposed to leave. You are supposed to leave and go. Then an officer delays your departure. Mm-hmm. By bringing the results at midday.
That is an inconvenience.
When you actually booked a plane from Gatwick to Kisumu, and you go home. Sorry, not Gatwick, Heathrow Airport, sorry.
Wilson.
Jomo Kenyatta National Airport.
But they're not flights right now. But I understand your point, Doctor. Yes, that was an inconvenience, and I think the officer, I don't know if he bothered to explain why the delay was there. But he would have, if you had, he had agreed. They had agreed with the CS that there is also supposed to be at 8. Then if he knew there is also not going to be possible to be delivered at 8, he would have made a prior. Yes. Yes. As a matter of
in advance.
Yes. That is just good practice, yes.
Mutahi Kagwe is one on the right path. On this one, I've said it elsewhere on KBC, that he has done the best thing, that if all ministers were like him, Kenya would move very fast and efficient, and we would get rid of some of these people. He can go to court to claim whatever he wants, because that appointment is by the minister. It's not his appointment. Remember that when you are appointed as a director of MD or executive director of a Camry, it is the minister of health who proposes your name.
Yes.
But if you cannot deliver the result to the same minister, what do you expect? He will sack you. Okay. Thank you very much. Let's go to our reading and the legacy to 20 today. Obey the guidelines and orders of emergency. The orders of emergency today are very clear. Don't go out after 7 o'clock. Don't move out before 5. Those are orders of emergency. If you break them, don't blame the president. Don't blame the police. Blame yourself. Obey the guidelines. Wash your hands. If you are washing your hands on a daily basis and wash on hourly or 1 hour, 2 hour, 20 for 1 minute with soap or sanitize with your hands, these are guidelines. These guidelines are here to help you to avoid coronavirus. Because everywhere you see, the biggest problem is that humanity, you cannot avoid now to touch equipment, anything. In fact, do you know that, Miriam, at the moment, people are touching their faces more than they used to touch. Because you have been now told in the face. And then you see, as you talk, the head itches, the eye itches, the nose itches, the mouth itches. You know, you have to learn now to go to a new setup. The social movement, the social structure, the movement of the body has to be accustomed to the new directive, which gives you a reflex action within your body. So when you don't listen to the guidelines of what the Ministry of Health said, for example, wear a mask, like I've done. This is my mask. I used not to work with the mask. But here you are. When I'm indoors, it is always here. When I open the door for somebody who is opening out with the air, I put it on. Then I talk to people. So these are some of the directives that must be obeyed, or orders and guidelines. If we don't obey them, it is ourselves to blame. I liked yesterday something that the minister that was going around Twitter, where they said the worst thing is to see a man who owes you money not wearing a mask.
Yes.
He has your money, and you know he has it. Then he doesn't wear the mask. You feel like buying the mask and giving him so that he can be able to remain alive. Then he pays you your money. So such things are very good. They train quite a lot of people to understand the dynamics of how things are working today. But Miriam, let's come back. We don't want to eat much into your time for the good morning news. Let's go straight to the guidelines, obey guidelines and orders of emergency. One, we want to thank the President of Kenya, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, for every government move so far, and more so in emphasizing that the contagion can only be stopped if collective practice, physically distancing ourselves, frequent hand washing, and avoiding touching our faces will be healed, will be got rid of. These are the only preventive measures possible. There is no cure so far available. Miriam?
All right, and the second point there is the coronavirus pandemic will end, but without strong public service, Kenya will remain vulnerable to the next pandemic. The health, water, and sanitation and all other sectors must be transformed into robust, life-enhancing government services.
The onset of the COVID-19 pandemic has challenged the public service infrastructure as never before. It has made to limit the contagion. In particular, we commend health service personnel for the tireless the clock monitoring, testing, treatment of those affected by the disease.
All right, and the next is that it is not easy for public servants as well as for the ordinary citizen, but if we continue to cooperate, the pandemic will end. Kenya is among the countries with less than 500 cases and will stand a good chance of overcoming this crisis if we make the right policy choices now.
The legacy trend agrees with the World Health Organization that lockdown provides a window of opportunity to curb and finally defeat the disease, but also to prevent a resurgence of infections once the second phase of lockdown and a curfew is lifted. We believe it is necessary to refocus the whole of government on suppressing and controlling COVID-19.
And the legacy trend further agrees that on their own, these measures will not extinguish the epidemics. We adopt the recommendation that to be effective, the lockdown and curfew must be accompanied by measures aimed at strengthening the health service. It is our considered view that Kenya's response to this pandemic this far can lay the foundations for healthier and better prepared country. And I think, Doctor, that is a very important point because the COVID-19 has really tested the healthcare system, not just in Kenya, but across the world. Even for the countries we thought had it together, it has been tested to their limit, and we've been stretched so much. Thank God, because yesterday when we were doing yesterday's show, and you brought up the figures about the number of even beds we have here in the whole of Africa. The hospital beds we have are not even it's not even 800,000. They're less than 1 million to be precise. And yes. So. Mm-hmm.
My sister, before I cut you, let me emphasize this point. 63 years of independence of the first country in Africa. We don't have more than 700,000 beds. In fact, I don't want to show you the hospital. You know, when I talked about the hospital, somebody from my home, where the hospital is, took a picture. And Miriam, I don't want to show it to you. It does not have the paint, the same paint that we left it from 1968. Has the same paint in the rural area, and the cement is still standing. The buildings are standing. But he sent me a picture. He said they were listening in the village when I was talking. This is how deep this television has gone. And they sent me a picture showing the same, that this is the place you are talking about. It hasn't received a second paint since 1968. So you tell me how in Africa infrastructure will develop if we don't obey the directions, the guidelines, the orders that are here. We shall perish. If this thing comes the way Bill Gates and George Soros are focusing on Africa, you know, it is a very dangerous thing that this thing has been commercialized. It has come as if there is money to be made. And that is going to make things very difficult. If we make money, we make it as if there is money. And I don't know what the mistakes, whether it is too much money that has made Bill Gates to start talking. He would have kept quiet and stayed in the background. But now if he talks so, you know, aggressively about Africa being in, you know, hey, it is going to make things not work. I'm telling you.
Yes, and as I was saying there earlier, I think that the COVID-19 really has tested the health systems across, Africa, in Kenya, across the world. But thank God in Kenya, we've not seen so many cases that are very severe that required, the life support and all of that. But we've seen a number of counties and hospitals are prepared. Kenyatta National Hospital has prepared, and other hospitals in the country, Aga Khan and all of that, private, both public and health sector. So in case there was a surge, then that would have been taken care of. So far, the country has been able to handle very well even the patients there that we're having now in quarantine and others who are still receiving treatment. We've not been overwhelmed. Our health system in Kenya, we've not been overwhelmed. That one we can say for sure, because we've not had severe cases that are required too much of that. Just a few of them, and the rest of them are just receiving treatment here and there. But I think, as you mentioned there on that point, that this moving forward should be a lesson to not just Kenya, but indeed in Africa, we have discovered that actually we are on our own. When the worst comes to the worst, even the people we thought cared so much about us, they're recording a huge number of deaths and confirmations of cases. So we can't really blame them right now. They have a lot to deal with. So it is time that we look inward and we see what do we have. Because so far we've been able to handle this matter very, very well. We've not seen the number of deaths as they have been prophesying here in Africa. We've not seen the bodies in the streets. We've not seen bodies lying in hospitals. We've not seen that. And so it is a good thing moving forward that God has spared us the huge numbers as we see from outside the continent, but also our governments, and should now moving forward look into investing so much into the public health sector, not just the health sector, but the public health sector, because this is what a lot of people can afford to go to. And we've seen in Kenya it is doable. We've seen right now the women in Kenya, the mothers, if you're expectant, you go for the clinic, it's free. You deliver, it's free in public hospitals. We've seen that. So it is doable moving forward as long as there's a will and the government is really looking into this. We've seen that it is doable through the few efforts that the government has been doing. And we know that healthcare system is one of President Uhuru Kenyatta's in the big four agendas, one of the things that he really wants to work on and improve. So that means President Uhuru Kenyatta's heart is in the right place. So now President Uhuru Kenyatta, in case you're watching or you'll see this, I think now this will be a good way moving forward, and perhaps will provide you with a framework on how what else can be done in the public service in terms of our healthcare to improve in that. So out of this, you can gauge and see which area do we really need, because now, as you know, I've had 24 counties out of the 47 counties. Only 24 counties have the ICU units in their hospitals. So the rest which are remaining, how can the government come in partnership with the county governments and help out, and to ensure should anything happen in the magnitude that even Kenyans from that area might require this kind of service, then they can be able to access. So I think this will be a good blueprint moving forward in the areas that the government can really improve in the matter of public service. But as we have seen, it is doable from the little efforts the government has been putting in place. We've seen it, do very well. So because this is President Uhuru Kenyatta's, one of the legacies, the things that he wants to be remembered with, universal healthcare. It cannot just be universal healthcare. People can access hospitals, but also can they access the quality? Can we have enough staff there? So this will be a good opportunity for President Uhuru Kenyatta really to see where else can he put most of his efforts. And having a CS like Mutahi Kagwe, I think, will go a long way in assisting the government in ensuring that our healthcare really gets the services improved as it deserves. But so far, I think the government of Kenya has really, really tried, and the Ministry of Health has really, really put its best foot forward. So if we do our part as Kenyans, then the rest the government can really take care of.
Yeah, thank you very much. The last one, the legacy would like to add that what is indeed possible in Kenya in the short term is to continue efforts to find, isolate, test, treat, trace those who may have been exposed to the virus and who, together with their families, are at risk. But above all, listen to the CS Mutahi Kagwe and his team. Don't fall asleep. Hand washing, social distancing, wearing masks in public, stay at home and safe will help to combat COVID-19. Moderator of the legacy. Thank you very much. Over to you, Miriam, for the African news. If you want to read our articles of the legacy trend, please read them on www.thelegacytrend.com. There you are. www.thelegacytrend.com. Thank you very much. Miriam, you had something to add?
Now, I'm just saying, before you get to the African news, as we look at President Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy here, because we see he's been trying to work, but politics seems to be really interfering and sabotaging a lot of things that President Uhuru Kenyatta has been trying to do. So far, of course, Kenyans are happy with how the government has responded to the COVID-19, and President Uhuru Kenyatta has directed that the COVID-19 emergency Response Fund and relevant security agencies to coordinate initiatives such as the Adopt a Needy Family program, through which Kenyans are helping each other during the pandemic to ensure responsiveness and no bureaucracy. So we've seen that happen, and President Uhuru Kenyatta there is encouraging us to be our brother's keeper. And of course, this starting this month, a lot of Kenyans are really will be enjoying their salaries fully because of the tax exception there, 100% tax relief for persons who are earning less than 24,000 and below. So it came into effect in the 1st of April. So now the Kenyans will start enjoying from the end of this month. So that is very important. So just seeing how President Uhuru Kenyatta has responded to this, I think it goes a long way in assuring Kenyans that, we don't just come to you when you're looking for these votes, but also when you need us the most, we shall be there and we shall respond accordingly. And that is what we've been seeing President Uhuru Kenyatta trying to do, regardless of the politics that has been surrounding this. But also, Doctor, there's something here very important from the Star newspaper. I'll not mind up there. Just at this campaign that they run every day, and I know we do our own here, and we have been creating awareness over this COVID-19. So something here very important. The Star is saying, please refuse to relate closely with anyone not wearing a mask. And the COVID-19 carrier without a mask and a healthy person with a mask, even if you're sitting near a person who does not have a mask and you have a mask and you're healthy, but that person is not healthy, you still stand a 70% chance transmission probability. So if a person is not wearing a mask near you, can you please refuse to closely come into contact with them, whether it is in a PSV, a public service a vehicle, or whether it is in a supermarket. If somebody is near you without a mask, because I still see some Kenyans out here not taking this very seriously, wearing the mask wrongly, which is as good as not wearing a mask at all, and others not caring to even get that mask. So if you see somebody there without a mask and you have a mask, you're not safe. You still stand a 70% transmission probability. So stay away from these people. I once did that the other day from a public space. Some person thought they will come, sit next to me, and they did not have a mask, and I protested that because I felt I was putting my life at risk. If you don't find a need to wear a mask, don't come near me. And also, if a COVID-19 carrier is wearing a mask and you, a healthy person, do not have a mask, then the chances of transmission is just 5%. And if a COVID-19 a carrier with a mask wears a mask and a healthy person is with a mask, then the transmission probability there is 1.5%, very minimal. So in a nutshell, any type of a mask will do. So get yourself a mask. It's very, very, very important. And I saw there Dr. Matsanga demonstrating to us even the right way of wearing that mask. So it's very important. It's very important, Kenyans. It's very important, Africans, the people who are watching us. Wear a mask. And if a person is near you in a public space and they don't have a mask, please don't entertain that person near you. Protest that they leave, or if you find a way and you see it far away from where they are, to protect yourself and to protect them. So it's very important. And there you go. Dr. Matanga, yes, is demonstrating to us the right way to wearing a mask.
That's mine.
Yes.
And when I got open the door to anybody, I just wear it. When I go out, I wear it. And that's it. When it is in the house, I leave it hanging around my neck so that I don't forget. Mm-hmm. I want to thank you very much. Let's tune across to, we have 10 minutes. I don't know whether it will finish our news in Africa, but we can proceed. And then we have diplomatic leaks coming next. Thank you very much, Miriam, for the legacy. And those who want to read, Miriam can do the WW for you better. She's a very slow English reader. I am not an English reader.
All right, she can go. to www.thelegacytrend.com and get all those articles the doctor writes on a daily there. You can read more of that there. So now we turn our attention quickly and we look at the latest from the continent. I know we have been focusing so much on the COVID-19, but there appears to be other things that are happening in line with COVID-19, but also other news across the continent. So we shall start with Kenya, and schools in Kenya are to remain closed for another month as part of measures to stop the spread of the coronavirus, the country's health ministry has tweeted and also said yesterday. Now, the East African nation has had a partial lockdown in place for several weeks, with travel in and out of major cities banned. Schools have been closed from mid-March and have been due to reopen on the 4th of May. During the shutdown, the Education and Ministry has been providing school programs via radio and television broadcast. Meanwhile, Health Minister Mutahi Kagwe says that more than 100 patients out of the Kenya's 355 recorded for COVID-19 cases have now recovered. We move to Ghana, where Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo has extended the ban on public gathering by 2 more weeks to contain the spread of coronavirus. The directive comes into effect on Monday, 1 p.m. Now, the president last week lifted a 3-week lockdown that had been imposed on various parts of the country. Schools and borders remain closed, and the president has urged all Muslims to pray at home. During the month of Ramadan, the country has so far confirmed 1,550 coronavirus cases and 11 deaths. Some 155 patients have recovered from the COVID-19. President Akufo-Addo said the country will build over 80 new hospitals nationwide and 3 infectious disease centers in the coastal, central and northern regions of the country. And we move to Comoros, where security forces in Comoros have used tear gas to disperse people who had congregated in mosques in violation of the country's coronavirus lockdown regulations. This happened on the island of Anjouan late on Saturday and has been condemned by opposition leaders. President Azali Assoumani has imposed a nightly curfew, even though the Indian Ocean archipelago is one of the only 2 nations in Africa that is yet to record a single case of the coronavirus. And in Sudan, the head of Sudan Sovereign Council, the body leading a 3-year transition to the civilian rule, has accused members of the former ruling party of trying to infiltrate the armed forces to sow instability. Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah Abdulrahman al-Burhan told state media that efforts were underway to arrest those members of the National Congress Party who are involved in what he called counter-revolutionary activities. He also dismissed reports of friction between the civilian and military components of the transitional government that was put in place following the overthrow of Omar al-Bashir as president last April. And we move to the Democratic Republic of Congo, where a rebel group in the DRC has killed at least 23 people in Ituri province in the east of the country, officials have said. Members of a militia called Kodeko attacked a village in Mahagi district on Friday as people are setting off to work in the fields. And we go to Nigeria, where the government of Lagos State, the economic capital of Nigeria, has made the wearing of masks compulsory to fight against the coronavirus. This, his spokesman told the AFP News on Sunday. Lagos, the neighboring state of Ogun, and the federal capital Abuja have been placed since at the end of March under total containment in order to stop the spread of the virus, which has officially caused the death of 35 people for 1,182 confirmed cases in Nigeria, including 19 deaths for 689 cases in Lagos. And still in Nigeria, Nigeria's military says it has killed 89 bandits responsible for a series of attacks against civilians in the country's northwestern Zamfara state. The operation was supported by troops from neighboring Niger and led to the recovery of assault rifles and hundreds of stolen cattle. Spokesperson Major General John Enichi has said. He also said 5 people who had been kidnapped were rescued. The Nigerian military said that the hostages and cattle were due to be formally handed over and tweeted photos of some of the recovered items. And we move to Somalia, where tensions flared in Somalia over the weekend, causing angry protesters to burn tires and demand justice. Confinements and travel restrictions against the coronavirus are proving extremely difficult to enforce. Residents are giving security officers a very hard time, and the reactions from security forces have infuriated the population, who are opposed to preventative measures against the virus. And we move to Cameroon, where thousands of Cameroonian prisoners have effectively regained their freedom as ordered by Central African State President Paul Biya, after his government reported that coronavirus pandemic was spreading and inmates were among the groups with the highest level of exposure. The government has, however, not provided the number of infected inmates, but says more than 1,500 people have tested COVID-19 positive in Cameroon in less than 2 months, with over 50 deaths. Speaking via a messaging application from the Cameroon's English-speaking northwest town of Bamenda, Henry Assa Ngu, superintendent of the Bamenda Central Prison, says the 138 inmates who have regained their freedom were all tested COVID-19 free. He says their departure makes it possible for prison staff to ensure the compliance with principles of hygiene, ineffective to check the spread of the coronavirus. And in Rwanda, the national carrier Rwanda Air has announced it will cut the net salaries of its employees by between 8% to 65% as it seeks to deal with the effects of the coronavirus pandemic. In a memo to its staff, Rwanda Air said the decision was made to avoid laying off of staff. And in Guinea, the country crossed the symbolic mark of 1,000 cases of the new coronavirus on Sunday, where the COVID-19 disease is progressing rapidly despite the introduction of a curfew and the compulsory wearing of masks, the health authorities there have said. And then we move to Biafra, where the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, has accused the people in Aso Rock, Nigeria's presidential villa, and China of being responsible for the mysterious deaths recorded in Kano State in the northern Nigeria. Niger News reports that over 600 people have been reported to have died in Kano in the past 1 week, with the State Commissioner for Information, Muhammad Garba, saying in a statement on Sunday that the government is putting measures in place to keep all residents safe. Meanwhile, officials in Nigeria's northern Kano State say the recent sharp rise in the deaths was not connected to COVID-19, the respiratory illness caused by the coronavirus. Officials say they are still investigating the cause of the deaths, but added that so far preliminary results shows it's not COVID-19. And then we move to Amazonia, where the former United States ambassador to Africa, Herman J. Cohen, has called for a mediation of his country into the crisis rocking the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. The U.S. diplomat made the suggestion after the government of Cameroon released a report recognizing the responsibility of its soldiers in the February 14th killings in Garbo, a northwest region. The report added that those responsible for the killings have been arrested and will now face a very fair trial. And that is the latest from across the continent. Thank you very much. Have a very good afternoon, morning to you. Still a few minutes to noon here in Nairobi. And the doctor there seems to, doctor, can you hear me? So we'll take a short break, and then we shall come back with the diplomatic leaks, where we shall be looking at bad guidelines that could cause an endemic in East Africa and indeed in Africa. Please don't go too far. We shall be right back.